All right, today we're diving into this incredible ancient story. It's all about power, politics, and an act of kindness so radical it basically broke every rule in the book. We're going to look at what a king does when he finally gets absolute power, and you'll see it has this surprisingly modern message about loyalty, grace, and what it really means to welcome someone. So I want you to just imagine this for a second. You've been through years of civil war, betrayals, literally fighting for your life, and you finally won. You are now the undisputed king. The throne is yours. So what's your first move, right? Who gets a reward? And maybe more importantly, who do you have to deal with? Well, back in the ancient Near East, the answer to that question was a no-brainer. And it was absolutely brutal. The standard playbook for any new king was simple: systematically hunt down and eliminate every single male heir from the old royal family. I mean, it was just a cold, hard political calculation for survival. But King David, who's just taken the throne of a united Israel, he does something completely, utterly different. He decides to show kindness. Okay, to really get how radical David's move was, you have to understand this brutal math. Leaving a rival heir alive, even a little kid, was like leaving a lit match next to a barrel of gunpowder. It was just an open invitation for future rebellions, a constant threat to your power, to your life, to your whole family. Securing the throne meant one thing: erasing the past, completely, ruthlessly. So when David opens his mouth and asks this question, you can bet that anyone listening would have felt a chill go right down their spine. To them, this sounds like exactly one thing: the start of a manhunt. He's looking for what's left of the old king's family. The question in their minds isn't if he's going to eliminate the threat, it's how he's going to do it. And that word, kindness, that would have sounded like some strange, maybe even sinister code word for something much, much darker. And just like that, the search is on. You can just feel the tension in the royal court, right? This dangerous question is just hanging in the air. Finally, the king's men, they find a former servant of the old King Saul, and he knows something. Turns out, he knows about a hidden heir, a direct descendant of the very man David replaced on the throne. The target's name is Mephibosheth, and the contrast here is just wow. Politically, this guy is a massive threat. He's the grandson of the former king, a legitimate rival. But personally, he's incredibly vulnerable. The text tells us he's lame in both feet. He got this injury as a little kid when his nurse was fleeing with him after his dad and grandpa were killed in battle. And in a culture that put a huge premium on physical strength, this basically made him an outcast, a totally marginalized figure. And where is he hiding out? In a place called Lo-debar. Now, the name itself tells you everything you need to know. In Hebrew, Lo-debar can mean no pasture, or even no word. Think about that. It's a place of nothingness, of barrenness, a place where you go to be forgotten. It's the perfect picture of Mephibosheth's whole situation. Hidden away, totally isolated, living in complete obscurity, miles and miles away from the halls of power. And if you think that's on the nose, there's one more layer. His own name, Mephibosheth, actually contains the Hebrew word bosheth, which means shame. So his name is literally something like from the mouth of shame. And what's really interesting is that in other parts of the text, his name is different. It was probably changed by later writers to get rid of a reference to a pagan god, and they replaced it with shame. So let's just recap. You have a man whose very identity is tied to shame, hiding out in a place that literally means nothing. Wow. Okay, so the king's guards find him. Can you imagine that moment? Mephibosheth is dragged before the new king, the guy who took his grandfather's throne. He immediately falls on his face, totally prostrate, just waiting. He's got to be expecting the executioner's sword to fall any second. I mean, he is the last of a rival dynasty. He's expecting a death sentence. But what happens next isn't a sentence. It's a royal decree that's about to turn his entire world upside down. Instead of death, David makes this four-part promise that just completely shatters Mephibosheth's reality. First up, safety. David says, do not fear. Just think about that. The one thing he's probably done his entire life is now forbidden by the king. Second, kindness, the absolute last thing he would have expected. Third, and this is huge, restitution. David doesn't just let him live, he gives him back all the land and property that belonged to his grandfather, King Saul. And finally, the real bombshell, fellowship. David says, you shall eat at my table always. And let's be clear, this isn't a one-time dinner invite. This is basically a permanent adoption into the royal family. So what is going on here? Why would a king do this? Is it just pity? Is it some kind of weird political stunt? No, the answer isn't random at all. It's actually rooted in a single, incredibly powerful Hebrew word that explains this entire history-defying moment. And that word is ḥesed. Now, we got to be careful here, because our English words like kindness or mercy don't really do it justice. Ḥesed is way more rugged than that. It's an unbreakable concept. Think steadfast love, fierce covenant loyalty. It's all about keeping a sacred promise, no matter the cost. So the key thing to get here is that David isn't just acting on a whim or some spontaneous feeling. He's fulfilling a serious obligation. And why? Because years earlier, David had made a sacred vow, a covenant with his best friend Jonathan. And Jonathan was King Saul's son and Mephibosheth's father. They promised to show ḥesed to each other's families forever. So that question David asked at the very beginning, it wasn't, is there anyone from Saul's house I need to kill? It was, is there anyone left that I can show ḥesed to for Jonathan's sake? He wasn't hunting a rival. He was hunting for an opportunity to keep his word. So this one act, it ends up creating this incredible legacy. It's this powerful picture of radical welcome that has just echoed down through the centuries. People have been talking about and interpreting this for thousands of years. It really wasn't just about one man. It became a symbol for something way, way bigger. And the person who wrote this story really wants to make sure we don't miss the point. Pay attention to this. The phrase, eat at the king's table, gets repeated 4 times in this one short chapter. It's like a literary drumbeat, right? Boom, boom, boom. Just hammering home the message. Mephibosheth's inclusion is total, it's permanent, and it is completely unconditional. He's family now. And you can really see the power of this story in how different people have interpreted it over the years. For example, in Jewish tradition, the focus is all on David's incredible ḥesed, that unbreakable covenant loyalty, and his sense of justice. Then you have the early Christian writers, and they saw David as a type or a picture of Christ, welcoming sinners to his table, which they connected to the Eucharist. And today, a lot of people read this as this incredibly powerful story about radical inclusion, about grace, and about restoring dignity to those who've been forgotten and pushed to the margins. And all of that brings us to the final, absolutely stunning image of the chapter. So Mephibosheth is now permanently at the king's table. That's his new position, his new status. But notice what the text says about his condition. He is still permanently lame in both feet. And this right here, this is the heart of grace. His weakness wasn't a problem that had to be fixed before he could be accepted. He was welcomed, lame feet and all, to a place of the highest honor. Grace met him exactly where he was. It didn't demand he get fixed first. So this ancient story of ḥesed, this story of a covenant love that actively seeks out the forgotten, that restores what was lost and makes a permanent place at the table, it doesn't just stay back in the past. It's meant to challenge us, right here, right now. It forces us to look around our own worlds and ask a pretty tough question. Who out there is waiting in their own Lo-debar, in a place of nothingness or shame, or just being forgotten, waiting for an unexpected invitation to your table?